The Tennessee House voted Tuesday to remove $250,000 that had been earmarked for festivities to commemorate the city's founding in 1819. Legislators who supported the move explicitly linked it to the removal of the Confederate monuments, which took place after dark, with no official announcement, on December 20. While the Memphis nonprofit moved the statues to an undisclosed location with the intent of transferring them to a historical society or Confederate memorial site, Holt said he stuck by the reference to the Islamic State as he felt both groups were trying to eliminate history. "My comparison to ISIS is not to say that these folks are terrorists or extremists or whatever else," said Holt in an interview with Pulse News, "it's simply to say the removal of historical documents, the removal of historical markers is characteristic of what ISIS has done. It's racist, it's vindictive, it's mean-spirited, it's embarrassing," said Representative Antonio Parkinson, a Democrat who represents Memphis, of the amendment. Parkinson was booed on the floor Tuesday for calling the amendment racist, an action he told Pulse News he considers to be a badge of honor. The vote wasn't the first attempt by the state legislature to punish Memphis for its actions. Earlier this year a bill was proposed that would have made it a felony for local officials to vote to remove statues using the same legal maneuver. Last month the Republican supermajority recalled a resolution that had honored Tammy Sawyer, the leading activist for the anti-Confederate statue movement. There have also been attempts to strengthen the Protection Act and to make it legal for the state to take possession of monuments in jeopardy of loss, destruction, or exploitation. The main target in Memphis was the century-old Forrest statue overlooking one of the city's main thoroughfares. Forrest was a swashbuckling Confederate cavalryman who became a Southern icon, the namesake of the fictional Forrest Gump, but a statue honoring him was deemed offensive by Memphis, whose population is mostly African American. Before the Civil War, Forrest was a slave trader, running the Negro Mart downtown. During it he was questioned for war crimes after troops under his command allegedly massacred black Union troops who were attempting to surrender at Fort Pillow. After the war, he was the first Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. "I never understood as a kid growing up these are public parks, yet they display a monument of someone that was brutal to my ancestors," said City Council Chairman Berlin Boyd. He sold them, and he was not the type of image or man we should be portraying, especially in a city like Memphis that is predominantly African American. The Forrest statue was dedicated in 1905 at the height of Jim Crow, while the monument to Davis that was also removed in December went up in 1964, as part of the backlash to the civil rights movement. The parks where the statues stood were themselves segregated until a Supreme Court ruling in 1963. Opposition to the statues gathered momentum after white supremacists held a violent rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, last September to protest the removal of a statue of Robert E. Lee. The local Chamber of Commerce and over 150 religious leaders backed the movement. The city was determined to act before the ceremonies earlier this month commemorating the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. in Memphis 50 years ago. The city council vote to sell the parks and bring the statues down was unanimous. McDaniel did not respond to a request for interview, nor did Representative Matthew Hill, who introduced the bill. Hill represents Jonesboro, Tennessee, which is a 7-hour drive from Memphis.